Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Hunt, when we met in my office, I said that I would ask you this question, so I hope it doesn't come as any surprise, but you were present in the room for the conversation between Mr. Comey and Attorney General Sessions, in which Mr. Comey, Director Comey then, was reported to have said that he asked to be protected from any further direct contact with the president. Could you just take a moment, take a breath, and walk us through what transpired in front of you?
Yes, Senator. I was in the room for that conversation. The Attorney General has spoken on this issue publicly, and my recollection of what happened in that meeting comports with what the Attorney General has testified to.
Why don't you describe it?
Okay, so, and there is, as I mentioned, as we discussed this in
Where are
office.
you, just for starters?
Pardon me?
Where are you when that takes place?
This is a, so the...
You in the Attorney General's small corner office?
Actually, no, Senator. This was after a routine morning threat briefing. Again, I wouldn't ordinarily talk about a particular conversation between the Attorney General and his or her FBI director, but because they've both spoken publicly on this, and I can speak about it, and I don't have anything to add to what he said, but what I will tell you is that it happened after a morning threat briefing. We typically had several threat briefings a week.
Is that in the AG conference room?
They
or is that
typically
in
take
GIF?
place in the command center, in the Justice Command Center. And so after one of the morning meetings, the then Director Comey indicated that he wanted to speak with the Attorney General, and he said that he had had a one-on-one conversation with the President. He didn't mention the subject of the conversation or what it was about. And
was it just the three of you in the room at the time?
There was
the command center?
There was actually an additional person in the room. So
Who was that additional person?
It was the Chief of Staff to the Director.
Okay.
Director Comey.
Director
So
Comey's
there was
Chief
two.
of Staff.
It
So there
was
were four of you.
Director for, as I recall.
My
my
no, I
recollection
understand.
is that he
I'm
was
only asking for your recollection.
It's my recollection that he was there. So Director Comey mentioned that he had had the one-on-one conversation with the President. He didn't mention the subject of that. He didn't mention what it was about. He said he had had several one-on-one conversations. That one that he was referencing had happened in either the day before in close proximity, but we didn't know what that was about. And he said that he was concerned about the Director of the FBI having one-on-one conversations with the President without the presence of the Department of Justice. And the Attorney General responded and said, well, we have a Whitehouse contacts policy that governs the communications that that the White House has with the Department of Justice, including the FBI, and that's an important policy, and we all need to do our best to adhere to it. That was the conversation.
There were no commitments made either way about interrupting further conversations or stopping further conversations or anything else?
I do not recall anything else, no. It was a very brief conversation.
All right. The question of the Attorney General's recusal is one that the department has been rather vague about describing to all of us here, particularly how it's enforced. What can you tell us about who oversees the recusal? It's one thing to say that the Attorney General's recused. It's another thing to have a referee who is the person who will say, whoops, that's not consistent with the recusal. Who in this case is the referee for the recusal?
So, Senator, yes, the Attorney General's recused with respect to anything related to the special counsel's investigation related to the Russia matter. So the person who would police that issue, first of all, I should note, and you probably are aware, that I sent out a recusal notice that went to the relevant components when the decision was formally made, including to the Deputy Attorney General.
And my question is really, who's the referee as to whether or not that recusal memo is being honored by the recipients of it?
So the first thing I'd have to say is that because I'm recused, I don't know about that.
But this is a process question. In the Department of Justice, when there is a recusal, who is in charge of assuring that the recusal is in fact honored?
Correct. And so I think this answer would be, this would be the Deputy Attorney General, because the Deputy Attorney General appointed the special counsel. All matters related to that go to him. And as I believe he has said to this committee and the body of Congress, that no matters reach the fifth floor without coming, which is where the Attorney General is, without coming through the fourth floor, which is where the Deputy Attorney General is. And I can tell you that in my time in the Attorney General's office, nothing with respect to this matter came up to the Attorney General's office.
Okay. May I ask one further question, Mr. Chairman? We are facing a bit of a predicament with respect to the nomination of Mr. Benchkowski to be the chief of the criminal division. He does not bring the level of experience that one would ordinarily associate with nominees for that position. He does bring a longstanding, close political relationship with the Attorney General. We are informed that the special counsel is acting more or less like a United States Attorney's office, in that special counsel requires the ordinary approvals from the various sections of the department before it can proceed with matters that are so regulated by the department, which means that the special counsel's office would be requesting from Mr. Benchkowski approvals related to pursuing a matter against a public official, racketeering, RICO-type matters, things where the department ordinarily has to give its blessing. I've been a U.S. attorney. There are lots of things we have to get blessed by the department. How would, in the event that there were some back-channel communications between Mr. Benchkowski and Attorney General Sessions, which would be our concern, what you're saying is that it would be Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein's responsibility to police that and make sure that the disclosure process of reporting and of clearances through the criminal division was not giving Mr. Benchkowski information about the special counsel investigation that was then getting to the Attorney General.
Oh, so again, this would be just because I'm not familiar with anything related to the special counsel investigation
and
how that reporting process. But the pure process issue, I think you're correct, Senator, that in many instances when matters arise in the U.S. Attorney's Office that need approval through the leadership, if it's a criminal matter, it could go through the criminal division. My sense is, and this would be more appropriately directed to Rod Rosenstein as the deputy, but my sense is because he specially appointed Director Mueller as the special counsel, that reporting goes directly to the Deputy Attorney General and not through some other component. But again, this is a process question, and I can't directly answer the specifics related to that investigation because I don't know about it. That's my guess, and I think it would be appropriate to have that question directed to the Deputy Attorney General.
Chairman, thank you for your leeway with the additional time. I appreciate it. And thank you very much, Mr. Hunt. Thank you for your service.